All right. So normally we don't get people in the studio all the time.
Here we are.
And this is the best way to do it because it really is. It makes it so much easier than the lag on the internet. And we've had so many problems with like connection and stuff. So today we've got Rob Perez in studio here at the Believe in the Run headquarters. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Second time here.
Oh, that's right. You came for the party.
I came for a run.
Now, it's kind of crazy because I didn't know something about you that I learned. We'll get into that. But you're in the DC area. Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, how would you consider like your running? Why you're here at Believe in the Run?
I'm a running enthusiast that creates content around running.
All right. And recently you had a fantastic handlebar mustache.
I did.
That I would say was iconic.
It was part of the branding, we'll say.
It was. How do you feel about your decision to shave it off?
Good. I mean, it was time for change. And yeah, it was. I met someone recently. This is the total truth. No one's actually asked this before. Thanks. I'm literally blushing. This is embarrassing. Yeah, I met someone who didn't necessarily love the mustache, but I want to keep her around. So we got rid of it. As you can see, I'm like midway growing it.
I was going to say, it looks like maybe it's making a return.
We're gonna try some scruff.
All right.
We're going to try scruff.
Man, she must be pretty important if you're willing to basically get rid of your dog.
She's great. Yeah, we're keeping her around.
All right, that's awesome. All right, so now that we're past the mustache, because it is disturbing because I'll see your content now and I'll be like, who is this guy trying to be Rob
I don't
Perez?
get stopped on the street anymore.
See?
Truly. It overnight, complete change. I thought people were kidding about that.
Did you cry a little bit?
No.
Yeah,
it happened and I got over it immediately. I will say, I mean, I'm former military. The clean shaven face feels good. There's something about like just the smooth chin that I'm like, okay, that does feel kind of good and way less maintenance because that I had to wax and I had to like maintain, it was.
Yeah. When you say wax, you don't mean like Brazilian, like you to get the curl.
I'd heat up. I had a hair dryer that I'd have to heat up some wax and shape it and get it to hold.
See, but I see it as like almost a bonsai tree. It's like it's a living creature that you're taming and bringing to life.
It had its own personality. Yes.
Yeah.
But I am no different. I promise.
Well, I know. I just love it also because obviously we have the Faster Bastards and that's a skull with a mustache.
Yes.
So kind of fit like the whole vibe. But anyway, we'll let the mustache go and move on.
It may come back. Who knows? You never know.
All right. So the one thing that I thought was really interesting is being in DC, you run with a lot of different groups.
Yes, everyone.
Do you consider yourself part of any running group in DC? Like, is there one that's like, that's my heart?
Yes. Northeast Track Club. That's where it all started. That's part of the reason, one of the biggest reasons I'm sitting here today. They leapfrogged me into Speed Project, which Speed Project was one of the biggest reasons I started creating content. I want to start telling a story and start sharing like what big running looks like. And part of the reason I share is because it's so simple to me. I think running is such a simple thing and anyone can do it. And so I was like, let me start sharing my story. But Northeast Track Club is definitely what started that. And then I also do some stuff with endorphins. I'm pretty involved with that and consistently.
Okay. So you said big running.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
More than a marathon.
Okay. So are we talking ultra?
We're talking ultras. Okay. But Speed Project, the LA to Vegas race last year was my first time doing it. And that was, we did the 295 mile route, 5-day race. And that was my intro into like running constantly all day, eat, sleep, breathe, running. And that's kind of my bread and butter now. I love that. That's the most
That's where you find the joy.
I do. I love a fast marathon. I love a fast half marathon or a fast 50K, but something about like waking up, running all day, going to sleep and doing that days in a row is so fun.
You're going to have to do the Trans Rockies because that's my favorite one of those. But like for the Speed Project kind of started off when it took off, it was kind of grungy, kind of like almost underground.
Yeah.
And now I almost feel like last year was the transition where it's becoming more, is mainstream the word? Like I see people that normally, I feel like in the beginning it was like kind of like ultra running used to be back in the day where it was like the kooks going out and doing something weird, where now it's kind of like almost like it's pretty.
Yeah. I don't know if mainstream is the word. I think honestly accessible. Nils and his whole team that put that on every year, they've made it more accessible. They're accepting more teams, they're accepting more people.
Is that what it is? I'm just seeing more people running.
That, and obviously as running has grown through, quarantine and COVID and everything, and how it kind of had a little blow up there. And I think that one of my theories is that the underground running scene blew up during that time because people couldn't be super public about hosting running events and hosting things because it was not in accordance with the guidance that was out. And now that we're back in that point where it's okay to share that stuff, I think that's how things like Speed Project and all these other unsanctioned races kind of blew up.
Yeah. I mean, there is something charming, I feel like, and we kind of kept that with some of our local running groups here in Baltimore. There's something charming about the non-commercial races, like, or challenges. Like, hey, we're just going to set up, there's going to be tables set up for 12 hours today. Run as many miles as you feel like running. And it kind of becomes a competition between people. I also love during COVID, people just doing like, like we have the NCR trail here in Baltimore. It's 42 miles up, 42 miles back.
Yeah.
And people were going, let's see how fast I can run this or do that. Those kind of things that came out of the boredom of COVID, I think the ones that have stayed are interesting, but I do kind of also miss that kind of like impromptu.
Yeah. People were just doing whatever kept them busy. Yeah. It led to me. I ran the perimeter of DC.
Okay.
That's a 46 mile run, 47 mile run.
Michael Wardian, I think, has done that. Did you follow his course or is it?
I don't know. Okay. I'm just going to tell you this now. I actually don't follow the sport really at all. I'm kind of terrible about that. I've heard the name. That name got sent to me before after I ran that.
Yeah. But he's in the DC area.
Yes. Yeah. I know all this. Yeah. I just I don't know what his route was, but I went and pioneered my own.
See, that's interesting because I've been thinking about it lately and I'm like, we did a project with Sidious when we were down with Hoka at the trials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I am a fan of the sport and I really love the marathon distance and stuff like that. But I've never been able to really dig my teeth into track. And there's a part of me that's like, it's not even the same sport as what I'm doing. Like
no, not at all.
It's almost like comparing cricket to baseball. And it's like, well, if you like baseball, you got to like cricket. And I'm kind of like, So to hear you say that you're not like really a fan of the sport, I get it because I'm guessing, and I want you to elaborate on it, but there's a thing that's fun about running that's a personal thing.
Totally.
That you don't need to necessarily be like a spectator to appreciate.
Yeah, there's two parts. It's my own journey and I get to go run at my pace and do whatever I want. I also was just talking to someone about this morning. I kind of lost or never really got in running that like mentality of I want to get competitive, I want to get good, I want to get fast, I want to do all these things. I mean, I've had some time-based goals for some different running events. But I prefer my own journey. I prefer my own pace. I prefer days where like I don't feel great and I only want to go run 10 miles or 20 miles, which is short for me. I only want to go do that at a 10 to 12 minute pace. And then I have other days where, like yesterday I woke up and was like, I want to go do 6 miles at like a 6 minute pace. And so I just sent it,
See, that's nice to be able to have those gears. Not everybody has those gears.
Yeah.
So when you're talking like, okay, so you like the high mileage.
I do. There's something about just getting into the zone and setting
what is it? Like, explain to me, like the thing that you're chasing by going further.
It's a little clarity. I feel just better emotionally, physically, everything. And it's something to go do. It kind of passes the time. I don't mean it in like a boring way. I also don't listen to a ton of music while I run. I just get to be out there. I enjoy running around DC. I have plenty of routes and places that I can go that'll keep me busy for 20 to 30 miles. I've run plenty of 50Ks in DC, not sanctioned races or anything, just on my own, a training run. That was a 50K in DC. And there's things to see. DC's beautiful. I love all the people there. Like there's just so much going on that I'm totally content with doing that. I don't have anything that's like, this is boring.
Yeah, I get that. There is a cruising, but is it like a deeper thing where it's like meditative? Like, is it out there? Like, cause I feel like when you're going long distance and doing, multiple double-digit miles, the headspace is different.
Yes. Yeah. As you may have seen, I run commute pretty often. It's 7 miles one way to work. When I'm doing that, I don't have to do any like mental preparation. It's 7 miles. I can do that at the drop of a dime. Saturday morning after potentially going out on a Friday night, to go knock out a 30 miler is, it takes a little bit of mental preparation. But it is once, I would say by mile 4 or 5, I've hit that groove, and any worry and anxiety I've had about if that run's going to happen or go well, or if I'm going to finish, out the window. And it's calm. It's, especially if I'm running with friends, it flies by. I mean, I have no concept of time when I'm running with people, let alone running by myself, where I'm in my own head and it's fine.
All right. So you mentioned running commute.
Yes.
And one of my next questions was going to be, if you're putting up these big miles, how do you find the time to put up big miles? And so you run commute, but what's your job?
So I am a government contractor. I work more in the security sector. My background's in like electronic warfare. But for that, I work about 7 miles from where I live. And it's a beautiful route. I get to cross a couple bridges. I cross over into Virginia, which is a little more suburban. So it's more runner friendly, wider sidewalks and everything like that. So it's the ideal route. And it's 7 miles one way. I do it usually both ways. I don't usually just do a one-way run. So 14 miles in a day. Yeah. Thankfully the train runs direct. But I try to not think about that.
Decent public transportation.
I try not to think about that. So if I run commute 3 days out of the week, there's 42 miles already done. And for some people, that's what they're using to train for half marathons and marathons is 40 miles a week. I'm doing that just simply to get to work. But if I just got a car, so now I know how long it takes to drive to work. But before that, if I bike to work, it's about 30 minutes. If I take public transit, it's about 45. And if I run, it's about 55.
Yeah.
So for the cost of 10 to 20 minutes, I get my 14 miles in done for the day.
All right.
And there's no better argument for the cost of 20 minutes to have a 14-mile day done.
But okay, so with doing that, that's got to be a lot of running shoes that you're going through.
Yes, and that's where doing content creation and having brands on board with wanting them to try their stuff has helped out. I mean, I get to try all these different shoes. I'm admiring the wall back here. I'm like, what don't I have? These are some good ones.
These are some old ones. Yeah,
no, I know. I saw upstairs too. Yeah. I was peeking. I get to try out a bunch of stuff, and that obviously helps. It's kind of like cyclical. I get content from it. I get to try a bunch of products out. I get to produce more content from that, and then more people see my content. I grow, and it just keeps happening. And now
I think we all get like a different thing. So obviously, when we started Believe in the Run, it was a long time before kind of the Instagram influencer or the TikTok one. So our evolution was a little different. My motivation for starting it was a little bit different than it is now. Like for years, never even thought about like financial or anything like that. But you see people in the game now, and I do think it becomes a way. It's almost like a side hustle or a business. When you do your content, you've obviously got a good job with the government. It sounds like you're playing Halo a lot. But
basically, that's the best way to explain it.
All right. I knew that they had their own like little game group. But you're going ahead and you're not going to quit that job, like a government job and all that stuff. It's good. It's a good secure.
That's my foundation. Yeah. That's my 9 to 5, and it will be to my 9 to 5 for the near future.
So what do you get out of, because it's work. I mean, what you're doing to put these videos together, you're investing your time, you're putting, getting equipment to do it. You're actually, it's not like when you go for a run or something, you're not thinking, how can I not turn this into creator content?
Yeah.
What do you get out of doing this and sharing your journey with people?
Kind of what I talked about in the beginning, the biggest thing I want to get across to people is, although I'm running 300-mile, 5-day long races, all that means is I have a ton of experience in running short little 2, 3, 4, 5 mile runs. And for some people, that's their goal, by the end of the year, is to be able to do stuff like that. So although I'm doing all these crazy things, I still try to make it relatable. I still try to, show that you can run any pace and whatever your pace is. And it's fun to talk about that. And then the other side of it is it's just purely creative. I was in the military for 9 years leading up to, my government job now. And there wasn't necessarily always that creative outlet in the military. I was a submariner. I lived underwater in a metal tube that was designed to sink. Like there's not a whole lot of creativity. going on down there. And so now I get to go.
No painting classes or anything.
Yeah, nothing. One treadmill, which I used a lot, but one treadmill.
I was going to ask you that. We'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
I'll let you finish here, but
Yeah. So once I was released out into the world, I was like, this is kind of fun. I go back all the time and watch my first couple of videos, and they're terrible. I love it. I get like a rise out of it every time, because I'm like, what was I thinking? This was such a
you want to go back and see some bad videos?
Yeah.
We started a long time ago.
The archives are great. I love
geez.
the archives feature on Instagram. I'm always like, ooh, let's get rid of that. But as it's grown, it's led to a cycle. It's led to now I get to share my story with people like you and believe in the run, and it's open doors. I think that's another big thing. I've gone to some places, and some of it I don't think people realize is on my own dime, but I just get these invites that people are like, if you're willing to come do this or try this, well, we're happy to have you. And that's where I talked about Speed Project earlier. And Northeast Track Club, they had a relay team do it the year prior to me running, and then the second year, I heard as I followed their Instagram, the Speed Project's Instagram, I was like, oh, they have solo runners. And the people at Northeast Track Club were like, if someone's going to do it, you're the guy. You're the guy that we're going to like put a recommendation in for. And they did, and I got in. And then I met all these people at Speed Project. And then from there, it led to all these other races. And then companies started noticing me, and they wanted to give me their product. And that led to more content. It's cool. It's a really cool cycle.
So what I'm hearing is that you like the opportunities that are coming from it, that to go do some of these projects that maybe you wouldn't have had access to.
I wish you could have seen my face walking in the door here. I was like, this is so cool. This is so coul. People want to hear me talk about running and things that I do in my regular daily life. And that's mind boggling to me.
I think it's weird that we assume everybody wants the same stuff or wants that. Like, I nerded out on gear. And to be able to now, like, I know what you mean. Like, when I go and I get to talk to a brand, and the guy that actually designs a shoe sits down with me and explains to me why they made choices that they made for this particular product, I'm like, I can't believe I get to sit here and someone's explaining to me, or is going to spend the time to explain to me why they are doing something. And I'm about as average runner as you come by. But it just blew my mind, and being able to have that access and to nerd out with people, that was it for me.
Yeah.
And the opportunities that have come to do races and, stuff like going to Tokyo and that stuff, that blows your mind. But it was definitely, we came from a gear centric side. It sounds like to me that this is more about you getting access to more running opportunities.
Anything. The door's always open. The first like race that I'm not getting paid to go to, but I'm getting put in the race, paid for by not myself. This is the first time that's happening. I'll be at Broken Arrow Sky Race.
We will be there as well.
Oh, really?
Which one are you going to Tahoe?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We will be there.
Yeah. So that'll be my first race where like I got put in there, and that's a race I, to be honest, didn't really know about. I saw pictures from it last year and was like, that looks cool. I didn't even know where it was.
All right. Which distance are you doing?
I don't know. I haven't been told that yet. Okay. So it might be all of them.
The nice thing, that would be insane. The nice thing about the Broken Arrow series is, and this isn't that, just happens to fall in line with this. Wow, we are sponsored by for the other podcast.
That's
for our weekly podcast. The thing about it is there's a distance for everybody. So this isn't one that you need to be necessarily grow out your mustache for and jam out to a 50K or a 60K. You can do smaller distances, there's 11K and stuff like that. So it's going to be exciting. We're actually going to have like a little house there with some of our trail reviewers and stuff. So we'll be part of it. So you're going to have to come over.
All right. That sounds great.
Hang out.
I'm so glad I brought this up.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. We're talking about the opportunities, and look what just happened. Like this is exactly it.
In June, we'll be there.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting. I don't know. I may try to stick around for Western States.
Okay.
And we threw out an idea because Carl's going to be out there with me. What if the week between the two events, Carl and I ran the Western States course but did it more like the relay thing where it's like we did 25, 25, 25, 25. Okay. Instead of maybe 100 straight through, and then bus back up to the start for the start.
This is how I think. This is exactly how my brain works. Right, I'm like, how can we run that?
Yeah, so maybe you stick around. We'll do that.
Sounds good. I'll add it to the calendar.
Awesome. So that's interesting. And I'm blown away that you're going to be at Broken Arrow. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
And then let's get back to the submarine. Because like, it seems like you're a free range chicken and locking you in a tube.
Yeah. I don't know how I did it.
Like how long? So if I join the Navy and I pass all the tests, and you're pretty tall too. Like I thought that would get like smaller people to be in the submarine, but what is, how do you become a submariner, I guess?
Submariner.
Submariner.
This is such a petty thing, but like is like submariner, like below a mariner. We're not below, we're above them. We're below them physically. We're above them in all other factors.
It's like the underminer.
Yeah, so it's submariner.
Yeah. Okay, so you're locked in a tube, but let's find out, how do you qualify for this position? 2, why did you go after it? And then 3, explain what the day-to-day is like on that.
So I joined the Navy and I told my mother via text message. I was asking her like what her maiden name was and what day she was born and what her social security number is to start my background check.
Yeah.
And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like a job interview basically. And she's like, "What job?" And I'm like, "I'm joining the Navy." My recruiter was a submariner, super cool guy. I actually wanted to go do something in the special forces era, EOD, SEAL, something. I wanted to go kick down doors and do what all 20-year-old boys want to go do. Along that route, though, I signed up for submarines because submariners are so undermanned that you get sent out to boot camp quicker.
Oh, wow.
And when you get to boot camp quicker, you can then try out for special forces quicker. And so I was like, perfect, I'll just get the quickest job that gets me there. And so submarining was the job. I get to boot camp and they do the question where they're like, who wants to try out for special forces? I raise my hand and they're like, what job are you signed up for currently? What is your current contract? And I'm like, oh, submariner or some like computer job. I don't know. And they're like, oh, sit down. All submariners are not allowed to even try out. I had my like life flash before my eyes. Because now I'm locked into a 4-year contract with the military. And I'm like, so I'm stuck here.
And they take it kind of seriously.
Yeah. There's no like, oh, did you not understand? We can tear your contract up and you can go home now. Which, by the way, boot camp is 25 minutes from where I grew up. So I literally could have gone home. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the next 4 years I'm locked in. But I dove in head first and picked a job. And I was initially supposed to be in navigation, was supposed to be my specialty. They, 3 weeks prior to graduation, said, we put too many navigators out in the force and we don't have enough people that do like satellite communications. And so would you mind switching? I was like, sure. So I started school over again. You start tech school over again. So I was in school for about 1.5 years, 2 years, which is a long time by the Navy's terms. A lot of people go to school for a couple months and they're trained. So that's how I became a submariner. I was assigned to the pre-commission unit, Indiana, which what that means is it's a boat that's not formally recognized as a United States ship. And that's because it was being built. The United States has not formally signed off on it. It eventually got signed off. We took it on its maiden voyage, which is a wild thought to purposely go sink a metal tube and test that and make sure that works.
With people in it.
Yes. It doesn't drive itself. So that was my like launch into submarining. And then from there, I did that for 4.5 years down in Southern Virginia, down in Norfolk. And then after that, I took a job up in DC and transitioned up here. But that's the pipeline of how I ended up here.
All right. So what's a better movie, Hunt for Red October or Top Gun?
Okay. This is another thing. You're getting me to admit so many things that I don't admit. Okay, so I haven't owned a TV for 10 years. I watch zero TV and zero movies. I've never actually watched Hunt for Red October. I've also never watched the original Top Gun.
Seriously, man. Like I know not having a TV is an excuse. Yeah, I mean, come on, you're part of pop culture now.
Also we're locked underwater, so we don't get.
That's what I'm saying. Like you had nothing. Then they have VHS tapes.
We play a lot of cribbage. Cribbage is the game of submariners. No, so I haven't seen either of those movies. What I can tell you though, I'll give you some information. The movie Down Periscope, it's kind of a comedy, or it is a comedy, but it's actually pretty realistic as far as like the quirkiness of a submarine. Yeah, it's obviously a lot of acting, but Down Periscope is the premier submarining movie, and that's the one everyone needs to watch.
I'll check that one out.
Yeah,
just to tell you, I know it's Hollywood and you have to make things seem exciting. Hunt for Red October made it seem like if you go on a submarine, you're basically a fighter jet underwater, like taking on stuff. And I'm guessing, or when you told me you were a submariner, I was like, that has to be maybe the loneliest, like just mellow, like I can't imagine someone with energy going down and locking themselves in a tube underwater.
Yeah.
Like it's got to really try your patience. What's that like?
It's a quiet environment. So the best way we explain it is we say, like, imagine I locked you. So I was on an all male crew, but they now are integrated, which is cool. It was about 130 men. So imagine I locked you and 130 of your friends. They don't have to be best friends, but like friends and people.
Some probably
some enemies.
Enjoy
yeah.
it
Some
all.
people you wrestle with. But 130 people. Submarines are 3 stories. They're comprised of 3 different floors, and they're about the length of a football field.
That's pretty big.
It is. So you have space. You have alone space and places to like hide and go read a book and get away from people for a little bit. But no windows, no sunlight, no beer, and no internet. And that's about what a submarine is. Like if you had to go live in a house and do all that, and you get to go to the grocery store once a month.
So
Hopefully.
how long are you under though? Like a mission, say a mission, you take off. How long are we down there?
Boats are only, we call them boats, by the way, because they used to be shorter than what is considered a ship. So we still call them boats. It's just a tradition thing. Boats are built out to last as long as how much food you can store on board, which I believe the max is around 100 days. Usually 90 to 100 days is what they can pack out for. But that's not what we did. I think my longest was a little over 50 days, like 56 days or something.
And you're underwater the whole time.
So we kind of pop up, but we don't touch land. Like we don't go back in to port and like go sleep in a regular bed. Yeah, you touch the pier. It's called bumping the pier. You bump the pier, and what they do is send a little ladder over, and a bunch of people bring a bunch of boxes of fresh food back onto the boat, and then you take off again. You like look at home and you can see where your apartment is or your barracks or whatever, and you're like, oh, we're going back out. So, but you got fresh food and fresh milk, so like you can't really complain because you've probably been out of that for a couple of weeks at this point.
Yeah, but man, I don't know if I could handle that.
I've just become so grateful for everything.
Yeah,
fresh food, sunlight. I mean, you name anything, and I think that's part of like
air.
Why the outdoors is awesome, and why I like being outside. I'm rarely in my apartment. I have a great apartment in DC. I love it. It's so homey and cozy. I'm never inside of it. I don't need to be. There's an outside out there. It's glorious.
All right, so then you transition from that.
Yep.
Into this government job. Obviously, gives you enough free time. Like. When people think, or you're a government contractor, that's a little bit different.
Yeah. 40 hours, no more, no less, which is kind of nice.
Okay, so there is like the same perks, the vacations or like the holidays are pretty standard, solid.
Yeah, I can expect free time, that was a new thing to get used to after the military.
That's got to be awesome.
Yeah, again, I'm grateful for a lot of things. I'm not down talking the military at all. I loved my experience. It got me to where I am today. It made me who I am. However, the grass is a little greener on the other side sometimes.
Yeah. So you ran on a treadmill while you're on the submarine. Was running always a part of your life?
So when I wanted to go special forces and that was in my head, I started training. I ran 5 miles a day, almost every day, right outside of Chicago. That's where I grew up in the suburbs. Ran 5 miles a day, eventually upped it to like 10 miles a day, kind of started to enjoy it. Right before leaving to join the Navy, I ran the Soldier Field 10 mile in Chicago. Awesome race that finishes in Soldier Field on the 50-yard line. Super cool. The only reason I ran it is I actually ran under my dad's name. This is before I knew what bib muling was. So before we get into that,
I you know what, back in the day, I may have run Chicago that way, but
oh my God, you heard it here first.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. But it was, you start off in the beginning and someone says, hey, I'm not going to be able to run this race. Do you want
don't let the bib go to waste.
And you're like, yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And nowadays I remember one time because there's one other marathon I ran underneath someone else's name and I did it again, like didn't think much of it. And I actually contacted the race director after the race and was like, hey, I actually like my result. Can I get that switched to my name?
You told on yourself.
Yeah. Basically, well, that's how ignorant I was about it. Yeah. I was like, what?
Let me get my result.
Now I know better. Like at that time I was like, someone paid for it. It's not like I'm using unpaid resources,
Yeah.
or something like
You're
that.
not a bandit.
Yeah. And then I was like, what's the difference? Now I've worked with race directors since then. I understand the liability, the insurance problems, and just the mayhem that would come if everybody was allowed to just like transfer bibs.
If anything happened.
But yeah, there's so many liabilities for race directors and insurance. And we talked about like doing like bandit style running, underground running. It's great, but there's a lot of risk actually involved in that. And that if somebody gets hurt or something like that, you're opening yourself up to trouble. So there's my little spiel about not doing that. But
I've learned a lot about that through things like Speed Project. I mean, like the liability waiver, like that. Yeah. It's got a lot of crazy things in there. Like go read that if you're running. It's fun.
Nobody reads
Don't
those.
Read it. Some people do.
All right. So you ran under your dad. Was he?
Ran under my dad's.
Are you a junior or anything?
No, he's Roberto and I'm Robert. So like,
okay, close
but that's
enough.
not technically junior. So, so I ran under him. It was a 10-mile race and that was it. Then I joined the Navy. Kind of lose track of running just for a little bit because of training and everything. And I didn't have a ton of freedom. You like in the beginning, you're not allowed to leave a certain mile radius of base. So I couldn't even go do certain things. After that, I joined the Navy in 2013. Fast forward to 2016, I get stationed in Southern Virginia on that submarine, but it's not built yet and it's not in the water. It's still like in a factory getting built. And so because of that, we did have a little more time and freedom. And so I finally was like, let me start looking into running again. And I'm talking to someone at the local running store and someone goes, oh, there's this race called the Eastern Divide Ultra. It's a 50K out in like Blacksburg, Virginia. And they do a 5K at night after too, which is like fun. You can do either one. And I was like, oh, cool.
I'll do both.
Yeah. Which is a race. They actually do a combo race, which is awesome. And so I was like, 50K, what is that? Like 31 or something? You know, I'm like, didn't even realize what a 50K was.
I mean, that is.
I go and run that thing. I think it took me 6 hours and 50 minutes, just under 7 hours. And I loved it. I'm running through these trails, running through these hills. My buddy Skylar did it with me, who was also in the Navy, and just had a good time. Like everything about it was fun. And that was kind of the send off into the ultra world. And
it's interesting. You even throw a time out there for a 50K because it really means nothing.
Yes.
Each course is so unique.
Right.
Like
not
is 6
comparable.
hours a good time? Could be a great time.
Yeah.
It's 6 hours. It could be a horrible time. It's like that is part, I think, of the appeal for some people to go into ultra distance, especially if you're burnt out on the competitiveness of like
qualifications.
Like, look, you run Berlin at a certain time, Chicago, New York, Boston. Yeah, we know some of those courses are a little harder than other ones, but at the same time, we're kind of judging like, okay, what should be a reasonable time to finish for someone of your talent. Where ultras, I feel like that's the freeing thing. It's like, just run.
No one asks. Someone sent this to me as a meme on the internet. No one, when you finish an ultra and you say like, oh, I ran the blah, blah, blah 100K. Everyone's like, oh, wow, you finished that? That's all they care about. Non-runners are like, you finished and ran 62 miles. Like
ran.
Yeah. Right. And that's what they envision though. People don't realize like you walk a lot of that.
That's the other thing. It's like, I think it's funny when, even again, ultra running is about as different as marathon running is to like track and field events.
Yeah.
So it really is a completely different sport. It's covering ground as quickly as you can.
Right.
And if you're going 100K, 62 miles, you're not going 7-minute miles full out.
You're not redlining. I say
Jordan.
redlining. Yeah. You're not at 160 beats per minute in your heart. You're like, you're jogging. You're out on a Saturday morning.
And if you can do it with a friend, that's the best.
So fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely so fun.
I can't, I've only done 250 milers, and both of those I did with people. So like, ran the entire thing with another human.
Okay.
And so it just, to me, that's a very fun, you experience things and share an experience with another human that is like, you remember that day.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's
what you totally. I mean, I just did, first Speed Project, LA to Vegas, that was incredible. And then when I ran Atacama, that I had one pacer. She ran 231 of the 291 miles that I ran.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Harley Hannon. She's a complete badass.
She should have gotten something for that.
She did. Yeah, Nils gave her one of the, as if she was a relay team member, one of their finisher medals.
Oh, cool.
He didn't give her a crew piece of memorabilia. He gave her a runner piece of memorabilia, which was awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, she is someone that and the way that we met at Boston Marathon last year via like eye contact. That was it. She was helping out at the ASICS store.
Is this the person that has you shaving your mustache?
No.
Okay.
No, we met at the ASICS store and like saw each other a bunch. Then Jared Butler introduced us and was like, Parley Rob. Yeah. Rob Par. And like, that was it. We knew each other's names. Fast forward a couple months later, she like finds me on Instagram and follows me. I then put up an Instagram story that was like, who wants to come to Chile and crew me for a 300-mile race? And I had about 20 people reach out. She reached out and she was like, I'll do it, but I want to pace the majority of it. And I was like, she's a marathon runner. She just did the trials. Very, very, very strong runner. She just, I don't know. When people aren't ultra runners, I don't know if they get it.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'll take the risk. You know, we're just going for completion. We end up winning.
Oh, wow.
And it was driven by her. She was just constantly making, if she would have raced me, she would have destroyed me.
So she was pulling you along
the entire way.
So why did she drop out at a certain point? Why didn't she just finish the whole thing?
It's not that she dropped out. She would take like little 5-mile breaks to go like start cooking lunch for me and something. Because I had 2 crew members.
Oh, okay.
I had a content guy, Chalo, out of he runs with like Click Run Club in Mexico City. But he was the only one that besides me that knew how to drive stick. But I'm running, so Parley didn't know how to drive stick, so she was just out running with me the whole time. And he took our little red truck down the highway, and we were just running down.
Was it self-supported?
It was just us 3. It was us and a truck. That's all. Yeah, it was another TSP race. It was no, there's no course. There's nothing. There's a start point and an end point, and you get there however you want. But Parley pulled up the map and saw this huge cut across this minefield, not like blow up mines, like mining. And she's like, we can cut across this. And I was like, you're insane. Mind you, I've known this woman for like 3 days at this point. And so we cut across this desert, and at the end of day 1, we were 90 miles in, and we were in first place. And I was like, if we keep this up for 4 more days, we might win this thing. And that's exactly what happened. But she drove that ship.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to do another adventure together?
We want to, but she is so, like I said, she just finished the trials. She is dealing with some injury right now, but she is supposed to do Boston. I don't know if that's happening. That's a question for her. But all those things considered, we want to do something. However, after she saw how those races go, she's like, maybe I'll just run it next year. I was like, damn it.
You can crew for her.
Yeah, I can't. There's no way I can do it. She's so much faster than me.
Yeah.
She is incredible. Yeah.
That's insane.
She would crush me.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you do see a lot of people that have success in the marathon. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I kind of feel like it's the same thing as if you're a middle to long distance track person and then they step up, you know, eventually the speed slows a little bit, but they step up into marathon or half marathoning and they blow everybody away.
Yeah.
And then like if those people transition to ultras, it's like game over.
It's a completely different game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I don't know. So you're doing this stuff. You're traveling the world now.
Yes.
And it sounds like you'll be at Boston.
I picked one weekend to take off and not travel, and it's the weekend of Boston Marathon.
No, that was silly.
I'm gone all the time.
Yeah.
I am gone all the time.
But you know that you're going to be watching it.
Yeah. Trust me, I'm having an internal battle right now sitting here in front of you talking.
You can go see Jared Butler. You can go see ASICS again.
There's so much to go do. I love everyone. I love Boston, but that's a good weekend in between a lot of other things that are going on because I have Eugene Marathon.
Okay.
Right after that, I'm gone every weekend, but that weekend.
So how did you decide Eugene Marathon?
Eugene was just kind of thrown out there by a group of my friends who all run with Endorphins Running, and we're like, let's go do Eugene. And I was like, I'm down, but I am unofficially pacing 320. There's a group of women that reached out and were like, you're a sub 3 guy. You can run a 320 and pace us. And I was like, that sounds fun. I've never paced. So It's going to be my own little
like
adventure. Yeah, I think so too. The other day I got on the treadmill and I set it to exactly a 3:20 pace.
7:39.
So yeah, 7:39. And I just sat at that pace and it was so fun. I was like,
Yeah.
I gotta say that. I gotta get used to this tempo. I gotta get used to.
See, I hate people like you and Megan. Like my PR is 3:20, so that's why I know exactly what that pace is.
I was like, wow, he's really good at math.
No, not that good at math. And I'm like thinking that, like, so I'll get my workout and I'll have my paces in it from my coach.
Okay.
And I'm struggling to do my marathon pace for 3x3s or something like that.
Yeah.
And Megan goes out and she's like, oh, I just have 8 easy in the morning, then a 4 in the afternoon. And both those runs, her easy paces will be faster than my marathon pace that I was like heaving and huffing and skittles flying out of my mouth.
Precisely. Yeah. I'm excited. I think pacing is going to be, so there's a couple things. Pacing I'm excited for. And this year I am crewing my first ultra. I've never crewed. I've been crewed so much by amazing and wonderful people who.
But that's good. You know what to do. Like,
oh yeah, I think I'm gonna love it. I think it's gonna be so fun. But I'm crewing for JFK 50.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, and that was my first longer than 50K race. I did it. I think my first year I did it was 2020 or 2021.
It's kind of been in the back of my head to do.
Sign up.
I've never done the JFK. I've done. Back when there was the North Face Challenge in DC, I did that one, and then I did North Face in California.
Okay, that's awesome.
That one was brutal. It was ridiculously brutal. Like you could get by on marathon training for the one in DC.
Yeah,
the one in California that broke.
Yeah, I could see that
a lot. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, JFK sounds rad.
Yeah, I've run it twice. And so I know the course. I know the points where you meet people. I know how you feel when you get to those points.
That was going to be my next question. Like, I think part of crewing is making sure you have the stuff they need. Mm-hmm. But a big part of crewing is the psychological side.
Totally.
And how much of it depends on the person that's running? Do you have to mold like your pep talks or not pep talks to the person? Like how well do you know the person you're crewing?
Pretty well.
So
it's a very comfortable relationship that like I'll be able to, gauge how things are going just based on like facial expressions.
So knee starts hurting, but they could probably
but I'm like, you're tougher than this. Okay. Like, suck it up versus, I do know there are people out there that just need literally a push in the back and constant like, keep going, you've got this. These are not those people.
Shut up and stop crying.
Yeah, these are strong runners who definitely know what they're doing. It is their first 50 mile, but they're running with another group of friends who ran JFK the year prior, and it was their first time doing JFK, and all they've done is talk up the race to each other. Is the first timers are like, oh, it sounds like they had a lot of fun last year. Yeah. So I think everyone's going into it so excited. There's not going to be a lot that goes wrong, but
for me, that's so hard to sometimes gauge. Like if I'm with you. And you twist your ankle.
Yeah.
And you're like throwing a little, tantrum. Mm-hmm. Like I wouldn't know what's the right thing to say to you.
That's the biggest part about Atacama with Parley, not knowing her. I literally knew her through the internet and a couple like eye contact, stares here and there.
So how much of a adjustment was that during the race? Like, cause I did that.
We figured it out by the first 50K.
See, that's
pace wise too. She pushed me for a 4-hour 50K to open up.
You're like, slow down.
and I was like, I'm going to vomit, first of all.
Yeah.
Also, when my watch dinged and it goes, oh, PR on your 50K. And I'm like, how did I just PR? In a 300-mile race, how did I just PR my 50K? This is a terrible idea.
Yeah, you still got a long way to go.
Yeah, so we slowed it down. But again, she's an Olympic trials marathon runner. She's, I think her PR is a 230-something. Mm-hmm. She's low 230s. Knowing that, I was like, I had to also, as the runner, wrap my head around she's coming at this speed, move. And I'm like, she's never done an ultra. This is where I get to teach her like, no, in 10 minutes, we're having ramen noodles and sitting on the side of the road and like watching trucks pass by and we're going to chill out for a little bit. Like I love that.
Yeah. Well, that's funny you say that because I did a century ride. So I ride bikes every once in a while and I part of the Faster Bastards group. There's a Sunday ride. Okay. It's usually 30 something miles. We stop and get coffee halfway. So it's 50 miles of pretty hard pushing. We sit, have coffee, relax, croissant, whatever, jump back on the bike, go back. And we pound when there and back. But then we decided to do a century ride, and nobody wanted to stop. Like it was like I thought we were gonna do like lunch and stuff, and so we're in the hills of Pennsylvania, like going near Gettysburg. I'm just getting totally grinded up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when are we gonna stop for coffee?
You were that guy.
I was that guy. So I appreciate the ramen break. But
yes,
my first, so when I did the Trans Rockies the first time.
Okay.
And
which everyone sends me that race.
It's one of my favorite running experiences.
I need to.
So basically what it is, 6 days of running
Yep.
over the Rockies, start in Buena Vista, Colorado, end in Beaver Creek. But the terrain and the views and the way that they treat you, Huda and the team, set up your camp while you're out running. You come back, there's a beer truck, there's a shower truck. Like it's bougie when you get there.
Yeah.
But in between, you're running basically up a mountain, across a mountain, and down a mountain.
Okay.
For the day.
Yeah.
In between, the shortest day is one of the tougher days because you go over Hope Pass.
Okay.
And so it's only like a 13-mile day, but it's like 13 miles straight up.
Yeah.
13 miles straight down.
Vertical climb the whole way. Yeah.
But I went with a woman that I had met. So I had a guy that I was running it with, and he dropped out last minute. So it was like the running store, the local running store. I was like, is it anybody who'd want to go? So found this woman, Judah, who is an experienced runner. We had a run. It took us the first 3 days to
figure it out,
to figure out the relationship and how we were going to. And there was even over Hope Pass, which was the second day. We had a little bit of an argument.
Oh yeah,
and stuff. So yeah, it's just. I think it's much easier when you know somebody and have that psychological bond.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Parley and I figured it out. We had a little tiff, I would say our final day. And it was, which we laugh at now. We look back and we both said we wouldn't change a thing about it. We're exhausted, but we also knew I think the point that we were kind of arguing, I think we were 22 miles from the finish or something, 25 miles. We've run 270 together. And we're like 25 miles, easy. And now we're arguing like on the side of the road. She's crying, I'm crying, like just not ideal. And then we finish and then all went out the window. I was like, why did we argue? That was so silly.
Well, what did you end up arguing about?
So I told you she pushed us through all the shortcuts. And I texted her about this the other day. She brought up a great point, but we did all these shortcuts, which is how we won. We ended up cutting 14 miles total off the like recommended course.
Yeah.
And the last day she found it was a windy road and she found this path that runs, I say path, it was not a path, that ran alongside it. But what she did is she would scout the route literally 100 yards ahead of me. So she would run up, and when she would know, she would look at Strava, and we'd had the map downloaded, and it would show like we're supposed to turn and then come back. She would look and see the straight line, and she'd go run up and put eyes on it. She gets to the top, and I can't see because it's an uphill, and then she can see everything. And she just looks at me. No like thumbs up, let's go. No thumbs down, like keep going down the route, I'll catch up. Nothing. So I just run up there. I'm like, I'm assuming we're good. She's also been right. At this point, we've taken like 9 shortcuts, and she's been right every single time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, it's the last day. We're good. She knows what she's doing. And we get up to the top, and you see more rolling hills, but they're so down and so up, you can't actually see what's at the bottom of them. And 2 hours into this 3-mile shortcut, we were doing 30 to 35 minutes a mile. That's how slow this shortcut was. I slip and fall twice. I land on my tailbone real bad. Like you can hear it. And she's right in front of me, and just pure silence between us. Just nothing. We couldn't exchange nice words at that moment. So we just heads down and got back to the truck where Chalo was waiting. He actually flew the drone out that he had because we took so long. Oh, he got nervous. So he started scouting with the drone. Yeah. We look up and we're like, oh, Chalo's looking for us. It was that terrible of a moment. And mind you, now at this point, we're 20 miles from the finish. And we get back to the
20
car.
miles at that point, if it's 35-minute miles.
Well, it's only because of that shortcut. We were able to hold like 14, 15-minute miles.
But in the moment.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, we have 4 more hours of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get back to the truck. Chalo has no idea what just happened. So he's just like, how's it going? What do you need? More ramen, more, orange slices? What do you want? And I was like, I'm going to keep walking for a little bit. And I like have this real monotone. And Parley just kind of, I just give her a big hug. She starts crying, and she just hops in the truck. And Chalo's like, what just happened? We have been thriving the last 4 days. Something just changed. And so I just walked down the side of the road by myself, and Parley and Chalo talk about it, and it all came out fine. But we got to the finish line, and I gave her another hug. We both cried a ton again. And I was like, I'm not mad at you. That was bound to happen. We had too perfect of a race. And then she texted me yesterday, maybe like 3 days ago. She said, I just want you to know I wouldn't have changed. Mind you, this race was in November of last year. She texted me 3 days
She's
ago.
still thinking about it.
She texted me and she goes, I wouldn't have changed anything about it. I think if every shortcut and every part of the race went perfect, we wouldn't have gotten the full experience.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I never thought about it that way. And she was like, we needed one really shitty experience to balance out and make all the other good parts of the shortcuts and the route great. And then make it like, oh, there is a tough part of that course.
Yeah.
And so it was good.
I think, I mean, you tell me, when you're in that depleted energy, like mentally,
Yeah.
at a certain point, especially when you have to find your own way and do kind of navigate on your own, physically you're depleted. I don't care how much you're eating and stopping for and stuff like that. You're gonna get deficient. At
the body's
point.
done essentially.
Your brain doesn't work quite right
at
a certain point. And I'm not even talking about a 300-mile race. I'm talking about I've gotten there in a 50K or even the 50-mile. Your brain just doesn't work correctly. And if somebody is around you that's causing you irritation, the brain doesn't know how to handle that. Like as a person though, it kind of, I think the reason I like long distance, even if I'm just doing a 20 miler with a friend or something like that, the reason I like that is because you start to figure out stuff about yourself.
Entirely.
And not everything you're going to like.
Yeah.
I'm sure that when you look back at that and how you responded to it, you're probably like, maybe you've done this differently or something like that. But I think it's interesting when you start to see yourself at that, like a floating head, like looking down on yourself.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, wow, that's who I am. That is how I handle these things.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the treasures that comes out of those types of runs. And even like you said, you would have gotten the full experience. Yeah. If you just cruise through, you'd be like, that's easy.
Yeah. Like that wasn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah.
No, we had a lot of introspection take place, especially day 4, but through the whole race. I mean, I just constantly was looking at things like, well, my idea of running and challenging and hard and things like that all shifted every single day, every mile. I was like, this is new.
All right. So now that you've had this experience with her, you guys are kind of like blood bonded. It's like,
we can't not do anything together now.
Exactly. Or just like they'll always, that moment is like one of those moments that sticks with you for a lifetime.
Truly.
Whether she moves to Canada, Alaska.
Yeah, she's in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not local.
Yeah.
It's bonding.
So if there was one person that you could do that with and have that experience with, who would you want it to be?
If I had to basically go do it again, it'd be Parley. It'd be her again. There's such a
nobody
trust.
in the universe that you would like. See, for me, I would love. And
I was going to say,
the problem is the age difference is now. Like my son wanted to sign up for a 5K this weekend, and he's like, I think I can go 6-minute flats for.
How old?
He's 15. And I'm like, oh, geez, we're not going to be like, my window to run with this kid is going away. It's like, and I'm like, I would love, like, if I could do a Trans Rockies with him.
Yeah.
That'd be like a dream come true. So I'm saying like, even like fantasy, like, you get to go with like the number one.
Oh, me and my friends joke like, yeah, I want Courtney DeWalter out there just in my ass, in my ear, just pushing me. I would love that. I would love to go die on a race with Courtney DeWalter just kicking me from behind.
I mean, she might be a broken arrow, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Again, I don't follow the sport. I don't know.
Have you met her?
No.
Okay. First off, like adorable person. Like
I believe it. And
in person, as sweet as can be. Like there's no, and I feel like you're certainly this way. Your persona on Instagram, like it's not like you meet you and you're like an introvert that's like, can't make eye contact. You're the same person pretty much on there. Like the character that you see of Courtney is Courtney.
How she is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
it's weird, like how she can go into like this zone where she can go blind.
Yeah.
And also just be like a chill person.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I would like, yeah, it either be Courtney DeWalter or Lucy Scholes is one of my best friends. She's done speed projects. She knows the grind. She knows the course. She knows the experience. Like, that's another person that I've done so many crazy little runs. I mean, I surprised her down in New Orleans last year, and just we ran a marathon out of nothing. In New Orleans in the summer, it's 95 degrees by 4 a.m. People like that.
So you're not going for like a historical figure like Napoleon Bonaparte?
No, no, I don't. I'm such a simple
Genghis
human.
Khan.
No, I did it once with Parley. It worked.
Yeah.
I want to do it again with Parley. Yeah, she's got my back.
All right. So we're going here for a while now.
Yeah.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to talk about?
Let's see. Wow, that's like such a free range.
Yeah.
That's kind of risky.
An open mic.
Yeah, that's kind of risky. And things, I'm trying to think if there's anything, because obviously driving up here the whole time, I was like, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah. Well,
you didn't send any like preemptive questions.
No, I don't. I usually, when we talk to people, I like to just kind of talk to them like, a normal conversation that you would like if we were
I love
like
it.
this. And it also takes the pressure up. Like, I don't want to load you with stuff because I also feel like the obvious questions,
yeah,
you're going to get on, like, if you do another podcast, it's like,
yeah,
all right, what year did you start running? What is this? There's like those basic questions. But if you I like following what you're saying and then just asking you questions about that, which I may miss some stuff. So that's why I'm asking you this question. And I don't know that, like, I am obsessed with running gear and that stuff. Maybe I would talk about my kids to somebody, but probably not on a podcast, that kind of stuff. And if you've listened to our regular podcast, we ramble all over the place. But for the most part, like, I'm guessing, like, we covered some of your career. So it's not like you're one dimensional.
And
just
you got
running.
all my embarrassing things out within the first 20 minutes. So
That's
those were the things that I was like, sure, I'll be vulnerable. Well, you got them out. So.
I do. I am gonna I think a poll for this podcast should be: do you think Rob should grow the mustache back in full force?
I would appreciate if y'all did that.
Okay.
Because I've wanted to do that, but I'm too afraid of the answer.
The answer is going to be yes. I forget who I was talking to because I told him I was going to have you on the podcast.
Aaron Bailey.
No, Aaron. You still had the mustache when I talked to Aaron.
Okay.
This was like recently, and I was like,
"Are you guys almost going to cancel me because I shaved the mustache?"
Dude, I was like, I don't even know this guy anymore. I was like, I can't like his post anymore. Yeah. I like the mustache.
I'm like, weird. Believe in the Run unfollowed me.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Weird.
You're in our, what do you do? Mute. We muted. No. So you look at the idea behind the mustache, though. Like, I think that if somebody doesn't know who you are, they'll go, "Oh, that guy with the mustache."
All the time. That actually, my media package that I send out to brands when I want to work with them, it's Robert Perez in big bold letters. And then under it in like little italics is that mustache runner guy from TikTok. Like,
there you go.
Because that's what people say.
Well, here's a question for you. I know, like, we try to play it cool here at Believe in the Run, but like every one of us, Robbie, Megan, even now Carl, like we go out and we do an event or something. When someone recognizes us or says, "Hey, Thomas," or hey, whatever, there's like oh my God, somebody's somebody's watching what we're doing. Somebody's listening to the podcast or something. Like, it's just like a little bit of like endorphin release.
It's so fun.
You said earlier, you'll walk around now and people don't even recognize.
Since shaving it, which I think now is maybe about 3 weeks ago.
Does that make you sad?
No, no. I've maybe gotten stopped now. Like, I would say once a week, but with the mustache while I'm out on a run, running around DC, I usually at some point, someone's like, "Hey, you're the guy, Rob, the mustache guy." Probably daily, once a day, I'd get someone that's like, "Are you that guy from TikTok?" that has gone away. I did not know it would make that much of a difference, but it did. But it's cool. You know,
all right, I'll make a note to put a poll up for this podcast.
If y'all need a before and after picture, let me know. I can get you guys.
I don't know if we can post pictures with it, but
something. I'll get you something.
Yeah, maybe we could also do a post or a story saying doing it as well. So man, get me both pictures. We're gonna need we'll take a picture afterwards.
Yeah, I'm so nervous.
All right, so give me your top 3 shoes that you're running in right now.
Oh,
and you can't and you're gonna do probably recency bias or something. But like if you had to pick,
no, I have some.
Okay,
I think wild answers. Not wild, but
top 3 dailies.
Okay,
like if you had to munch out double-digit miles and just cruising, not racing, just crushing miles. 3 shoes.
Okay, so the easy answer and the one that I always default to is what I'm wearing right now, the Nova Blast 4s from ASICS. That only because I ran all of Atacama in them, 0 foot issues.
Wait, you ran the 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
0 foot issues. Just
no blisters.
Nothing.
No hot spots.
Yeah, we had I had a blister in between my toes, but that's not necessarily because of the shoe. Nothing on my heel. I normally get a little heel blister normally. And I wore these kind of fresh out of the box. It was technically a really dumb idea, but
you had 300 miles to figure it out.
Right. I wore them for about 20 miles of shakeout runs beforehand. So I was like, nothing hurts yet. They should only be broken in now. So that's just always going to be a default answer.
That's so weird because I'm guessing the terrain for that was not all roads.
It kind of was. I mean, really? Other than when we took the shortcuts.
Okay.
But even then, when it's packed sand or road. So it's not like gravel. If it was gravel, I would have thrown something with a little more grip on or more trail-esque.
And it is chilly, right?
So 90-ish degrees during the day, 25, 30 degrees at night.
No, what country?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay, I was going to say that's at elevation, isn't it?
So we started at sea level, but we made it up to 11,500 by the peak. Yeah, you climb up into the Andes.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Right. Oh, it's so cool. Number 2. Jeez, this is tough. Okay, so I'm going to go Diadora.
Okay, which one?
This is where I wish I knew the model name.
Okay, I can help you with this.
It's the something 7000. It's their
the V7000.
Yeah, their version 2 or whatever, the new ones.
Oh, you have the new ones. We just got them shipped. Like I just got them this past weekend.
I've had them for a little while.
All right.
Super weird story on that happened. You talk about like opportunities. This is another thing. I tagged Diadora. And
anyway, you're going to Italy the weekend after Boston?
No, but if you can get me into that small town, because that's also where Campagnolo is, Campy. And there's a bunch of cool brands and all are from there.
Yeah,
that's my dream. Yeah, that's my dream.
I'll put it on a word for you.
Yeah, please do. Please do. All the content. It's all free content. If you get me there, all the content's free.
All right. Do it all. You know what? We are actually going the weekend after Boston.
Okay.
I'll send him a note and say, hey, Rob Perez wants to come.
So how that happened, I play in a rec soccer league and I wear Diadora cleats. Mm-hmm. I tag them. They responded, and one of my followers responds, hey, I'm good friends with like the lead designer at Diadora. And I was like, no way. Like, okay, sure. She goes, I just sent him a message. He might reach out and send you shoes or something. And I was like, sick. He reaches out and he's like, what's your address? Would love to get you shoes. Sends me a pair of these shoes that I didn't realize were like technically like unreleased.
Yeah, they just, I mean, they're not on embargo. I can.
Right, yeah.
I knew that. Put
much.
pictures in the podcast. But we just got ours. Like normally we'll get our stuff even before athletes and stuff. And we just got them this past weekend. So you were on the bleeding edge.
I've already got 100 something miles in them.
So let me ask you, did you have the V7000, the first pair?
No, the only other Diadoras I have are like their casual wear. Like I have their like street style shoes. Okay. I don't have anything that's actually a runner.
Okay. They've come a long way. Like the new
it's so
phones
cool.
that they're using.
I was blown away. And I'll be honest, I had lower expectations as a company like Diadora. You know,
the Gar Carbon is.
I saw those too. And is that what you have upstairs? Just
the one that was sitting on the desk is actually, I think that's the I forget the name. It's not that. It's a new one that has a supercritical foam.
Yes. I was staring at those. Those are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it spurred me. I haven't been on Diadora's website in forever. but I got on their website and I was like, these are all gorgeous. Half of them don't look like running shoes.
No,
Like,
design wise, they just do a beautiful job. It's that Italian style and stuff like that. So it is. I think that even the V7000 before the one you got, it lends itself more towards streetwear than actual performance. But and for a while their foams and stuff kind of pushed stuff that way, but they're starting to get better and really be viable. And I think this is like, it's taken them about 4 years, I think, since the relaunch to finally get to this spot where they're doing this. The other neat thing is that one is actually manufactured there in Italy, versus they do some in like Vietnam, China, and some actually.
I had no idea. That's really cool. And then number 3, toss up, both Saucony, but toss up between the Endorphin Speed. Mm-hmm. And I just got my hands on a pair of the Guide 17s.
And do you like the Guides?
I do. Same thing. Was like, I like the speeds. They got the nylon plate or whatever, a little springiness. I feel a little faster in them. They're nice and lightweight. I got the Guides. They were lighter than I expected. And then I realized they only have the rubber on the outer edge of the shoe, which I supinate. So I run on the outsides of my feet. So I need rubber out there, or else I tear through shoes in 100 miles. Yeah. But the middle was all foam and everything was all super lightweight, but it's also, I've noticed a lot of shoe companies, which I noticed with like Asics and the Nova Blast and everything. There's no plate, but they're very firm. They don't nearly bend like the old like Nike Freeze that in the commercial they would roll them up, right? And so they have that responsiveness that I don't necessarily expect out of a daily trainer. But I tried the Guide 17s the other day for a run. Loved it. And I like...
It's usually a stability shoe. I'm like,
I'm a big person on get to the start line healthy. Mm-hmm. I think that I'm like anti-cram miles, anti so many things. Get to the start line healthy and you're going to have a race day. What's it called? Adrenaline will get you there. The Guide 17s, I think, would be a shoe that I would recommend to someone that is potentially maybe more injury prone or clumsy or rolls their ankles. I mean, it's a wide shoe. Like the platform is wide. Yeah. It's not necessarily a wide fit. The platform on it is so broad that I was running and I felt like I was just like connected to the ground. Like it was very, very stable. And I was like, I could put a lot of miles in a lot of thoughtless miles and not pay attention to where my feet are going. And I feel like I would just get to the start line healthier. I would avoid injury, which is a big thing for me. So with how many miles I love.
I mean, you're putting the miles together, staying injury free.
Yeah, those are my 3 that I'm like in love with right now.
Okay. So you got his 3 shoes. If someone wants to follow you and they're not familiar with all your channels, what's your biggest channel?
Instagram. Okay. Instagram's where I do everything.
There's an underscore in there, isn't there?
So it's, I wish I could have made this better, but now that it is what it is, I can't change it. It's ROB, but the way it's spelled that is at the letter R dot OHO, right? R.OH.BEE. Yeah. ROB.
People get your pens out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. There's got to be an easier way to find it. You can't switch.
If you type in Rob Perez, I'm usually the first person. But I think if you do Rob Perez, on 99% of people that have searched me, I'm like the first option.
Okay. And you're on TikTok as well?
TikTok as well. And that I'm looking to branch out and do a little different content on TikTok, slightly more unhinged. Only because I don't have a following nearly as big on there, so I can be a little more free. And we'll see. Also, TikTok seems to like unhinged content more than Instagram does. So we're experimenting. We're still figuring that out.
Any other things that you're doing in projects that you want people to know about?
Anything? Let's see. I mean, you know about my big races coming up. Nothing this year. This year is I guess here's my answer to your question of what do I want to talk about? Maintaining a relationship with running. I run a lot. It's so fun. It's great. I've enjoyed that. Last year I did 50 marathons. I absolutely loved it. In the immediate response on December 30th or whatever, when I posted a picture of me finishing my 50th marathon for the year, the immediate response was like, what's next year? 100? What is, what's bigger? What's better? And I really want to stress that running can be enjoyed a lot more when the quality of the miles is enjoyed over the quantity of the miles. And that's something that I think this year what are we at? We're about to hit March and I'm I just looked on Strava. I'm at like 380, 390 miles for the year. Nothing in comparison. Last year, I think at this point, I was close to my first 1,000 miles already logged. I want to enjoy running. I want to maintain a healthy relationship with it. I want it to be still super fun. And part of that's coming through these opportunities that like being a content creator has allowed me to get to, which is super cool. And I want to take advantage of those, but I want to make sure that I love running and none of it feels forced. None of it feels like I have to be there. And that was why Boston Marathon, to bring it all back, is why I was like, I can take that weekend off. I don't need to be there for that. Is because I was like, I would feel slightly forced because it's like Rob, you're so big in running, you got to be there, you know? And that is true. I would love to be there, but I know if I take that weekend off and get some sleep and some rest, I have also seen what happens to my body when I travel every weekend out of a month, run 100 miles a week while doing all of that. And it's not the most fun for me. It doesn't make the sport enjoyable. It doesn't make the relationships with the people that I've met through it enjoyable, and it feels forced. And so I really want to make sure and push out to other people as they start training and stuff. Everyone has a relationship with the sport. Maintain that. Make sure you're enjoying it. Step back, take a rest day when it's your training plan doesn't say to take a rest day, take a rest day. Do it. I've never had a trainer. I've never had a coach. I've never had a trainer. I've never had a training plan. I've never run under any form of structure. I run until I want to stop, and then I stop. It's like such a simple thing. Running is so simple to me, and I would love for more people to participate because I think with content creation and with how much running has going for it, there's a lot of opportunity for people to get overwhelmed. And I've done that already. I did that. So I want to teach everyone else how to not do that.
Yeah, I think I pushed myself a little bit last year, especially as I get older. I try to do things that I was doing maybe 10 years ago.
Wow.
That don't work the same when you're doing it 10 years later. But I still get joy out of like, we do a month where we're racking up miles. And it's fun to have that camaraderie of other people doing it and going with it. And I do get it that there's some days where I'm running and I don't give a crap what my pace is.
Yep.
And I just look out, especially here in Baltimore, we have DC's beautiful running. We have the waterfront here, and I'll run along the water and I'll see the sun coming up over the glass, calm water. And you're just like, oh, I'm out here. I'm out in the world seeing something that people are sleeping through.
Screw the splits. Go enjoy that sunrise.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If you're going to have a long-term relationship with running, it's not always going to be about paces. Right. It's not always going to be about gobbling miles. If you really love and enjoy the sport, it's that, for me anyway, it's the movement and the breathing and the experiencing the seasons and everything like that. And that's why, like, when people only train for your fall marathon or only train for a spring marathon, you're missing out on so much. Like the whole world changes depending on when that sun comes up and temperatures and what animals are around, what leaves are on trees, all that stuff. It can just be a fun way to experience the world.
And the world's going to move on, whether you hit your 3-hour marathon or not. Like,
absolutely. The first thing you do after a crappy race, you wait a week or so and you put your shoes back on, you go back out.
Yeah.
So,
So I'm focusing on my relationship with the sport. And that's not to say that I've had a bad one or anything, or like I'm teetering on the edge of like, maybe I'm going to quit soon. It's not that. It's just, I'm seeing things, and I've learned from other creators who are like, yeah, it's easy to get burnt out. It's easy to get, blown up, and just, you don't want to do that.
I do kind of like, I do some of the new style of content creation, and I'll wrap this up.
Sure.
But, the new style, I do feel like it lends itself to burnout because you feel like you have to constantly be creating content, and that content has to be running, and it's got to be every day, and it's got to be this. And I would imagine there's pressure. Like we have a team, we've got a website.
Yeah.
If I'm not running or something like that, the machine moves
sustains
on.
itself. Yeah.
But like if you're a content creator on your own, like sometimes I'm like, how do they not, like, how do they maintain a joy for what they're doing?
Yeah. I don't put a video out unless I want to.
Yeah.
And that a great example of that is after Atacama. I mean, 4 days straight of just at elevation getting beat by the sun. I mean, my face was swollen. My eyes were swollen shut. Like, it was that bad. Yeah. I have a ton of content still on my phone that I need to eventually throw together and show what that was like. I just never did it because I took 2 whole weeks after that before I was ready to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm totally happy with taking a break. Content creation is always going to be my side hustle. It's never going to be, it's just fun.
It doesn't have the retirement plan that the the government has.
Yeah. No content creation's helped my 401k. So yeah, it's always going to be a hobby. It's not I wouldn't even say it's a passion. It's a hobby. It's a good thing to do.
It's fun.
It's creative. Yeah. It's something that I haven't really dabbled in before. And
I think if you're not, this should be like a rule for life, but if you're not having fun, and obviously even running, sometimes you're not having fun.
Right.
Your argument on the side of the road probably was not your high point of that thing, but the majority of it, if you look at your box and if most of it's filled with fun and joy and love, that's good. When it starts to be filled with crap, don't wait. Just do it. But
and I learned things like that, like the whole if you're thirsty, it's too late kind of thing for like drinking water. If you're hungry, it's too late. I learned that in ultra running. That's an ultra running thing that when I learned that, I apply that to other areas of life. Like, am I feeling burnt out by creating this video that I'm up at midnight trying to figure out and post for 8 a.m. the next morning? Okay, then I'm not doing it. Then I'd reach that point where if I'm even questioning it, go to bed, cut it off. There's
fresh.
Another day to make another video.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, it's like one thing that I do outside of running is I paint and illustrate and stuff like that. So, and you get there, I'm working on a painting now where I've done the background of the painting 3 different times because I'm just like, I don't like it. But that's the great thing about paint is you can paint over it. And and that's the thing, like when you're talking about being burnt out, just take a step back, let it breathe for a little bit and come back to it. But I don't know, we're giving advice to people on it. But all right, Rob, this has been a lot of fun. I think it's time to go is it time to get EquiBen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely time to get EquiBen. Have you heard of EquiBen?
I've heard of it. No clue. I know nothing.
I'll put it this way. When your boy Matt Choi's coming through town, he'll stop at EquiBen and he doesn't even come into the headquarters. It's 2 blocks from the house. Matt, that's not cool.
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely worth the stop. So we'll go get that. And thanks for coming in.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. This was so fun.